Hey, how are you doing? This is Greg Van Kirk. I'd like to walk you through the Our Collaborative Culture collaborative change-making tool. How might we here is how might we ensure that we're creating and nurturing the right culture for successful collaboration. Needless to say, all of these tools actually are about building, about creating and nurturing a culture of successful collaboration. But this is a great one, as you'll see, to be able to help you think about where you're prioritizing how you go about working together. So I'm going to go through and walk through it with you. We'll see on both sides here. As always, on the left side, we have about this, our collaborative culture tool. And below that, the header is how this our collaborative culture tool works. And then over to the right, we have the actual tool itself. So let me jump right into the about this, our collaborative culture tool, and just read through and walk you through it. So a team culture that empowers, if you look at the top here, forgive me, a team culture that empowers collaborative change making is key to success. Roughly 10 years ago, I think it was a little bit more than that actually, Google launched a research project called Project Aristotle to figure out the quote unquote secret sauce for creating and nurturing this kind of culture. As an aside, I read about that. There was a New York Times magazine, I believe, or the Sunday New York Times that had a big article about this, and that's where I first noticed it, and it really, really grabbed my attention. This Our Collaborative Culture tool should help you and your team put what Google learned into practice. So after researching 180 teams and conducting hundreds of double-blind interviews with leaders, the Project Aristotle team concluded that there are 5 critical conditions that must exist for teams to be high performing, to be very collaborative and successful. They are as follows. Psychological safety. This is number one. It's the huge, huge priority. This is the most important thing here. Teammates have to feel confident that no one on the team will be embarrassed or punished for admitting a mistake, asking a question, or offering a new idea. Everyone's opinion should be solicited, heard, and respected. So, got to establish a sort of an environment, conditions where psychological safety is prioritized. Dependability. On dependable teams, members reliably complete quality work on time. Third, structure and clarity over on the right. This is a team member's understanding of expectations, the process for fulfilling expectations, and the consequences of one's performance. Personal meaning. The work should personally matter. It has to matter to the person what they're doing. And impact. Team members must believe that the results of the work of their collaboration will make a meaningful difference. You have to feel like what you're doing is worth it and not a waste of time. So again, down below you have this, how this our collaborative culture tool works. So you can go through that. I'm just going to jump over and in my own words, walk you through it on the right. So you've got the our collaborative culture tool. You see, as always, click here or on the tool itself. This is on the PDF. To access the Google Sheet, make an editable copy, change it, what have you. So first you put down what is the team? Who's our team? What's our team name? It can be an informal team, it can be a small team, it can be a whole company, it can be a community. You name it however you want. It's just, what do you call this group of people that are working together to create change? On the left-hand side, then you'll just see those 5 different criteria. I've called them the collaborative culture questions in the left-hand column. So you've got for each one of them a question about psychological safety, dependability, structure and clarity, etc. Once you go through that on the right, you'll see the column to the right is we've got the question is, what is our strategy? So what's our strategy for establishing and nurturing, creating and nurturing each one of these 5 criteria, critical criteria. Once we have that down, we have our analysis. And so we say satisfaction with the strategy. How do we feel about this? Are we creating psychological safety? We really believe we are, then that's a 5. We feel really strongly. If we feel like we're pretty weak in this, our strategy is pretty weak, maybe that's a 1. You may have people first do this individually, by the way, and then come together and compare and share as a team. That might be a psychologically safe way to do it. So we put satisfaction with strategy. We circle a number. 0 is low, 5 is high. And then why this level of satisfaction? So why do we give it that kind of rating? We want to note that down, have a conversation about that. And once we've gone through this, we have ideas for modifications or improvements, right? So there's some ways we can modify. If we have a lower number, can we get it to a higher number? Okay, you can do these in order. You can do these out of order. The whole point is that you're touching on each one of these and trying to make sure that everybody's clear with where you are, what you plan on doing, and everybody feels like they're able to provide some impact, some input to make to help create this collaborative culture. So you want to model exactly what we're talking about here. And then you have the now what, right? What are our next steps? What do we take away from this conversation? Finally, we have the what hats do you wear? So these are 12 application ideas, as always. There are many, many more application ideas, and there are many, many more hats, but these are just some typical examples. And as I've noted before, these are examples that I've used, right? I've worn these different hats and use this tool in this way. One of my definite favorite tools here. Businesses use this when creating teams and for continuous check-ins, right? Nurturing means check-ins. Make this a habit. This is great for your overall team, project teams, employee resource groups, cross-discipline teams, team building during offsites, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Just a great thing to check in on. You don't need to use the whole tool, but maybe get that checklist. How are we doing for each one of these 5 things? Life coaches and mentors use this to establish a culture with your mentee, the people that you're coaching to, that prioritizes psychological safety and purpose. Educators use this with your class on the whole and or with student groups. This is great for periodic check-ins. It's kind of almost like a checklist, right? Consultants use this with clients when you first start out on a project and or when they want to design or scale a program or innovation, right? Get this all established up front. I use this, the core values tool, which you'll see later on, the superpowers tool later on, all up front to set the tone. Facilitators, when you have people working in teams, have them go through this in the beginning to set the right tone for the conversations. Students, use this as one of the first tools whenever you're starting a formal or informal team. This could be everything from student council to community volunteering teams, certainly community impact teams, designing solutions, what have you. Parents, great tool for parents. Use this as more of a personal checklist for family plans and conversations. Your family is your team, right? So are we establishing this kind of tone for us to work well together as a family? Entrepreneurs and innovators use this as a priority tool from the very beginning. Set up strategies that will give you the best chance for successful collaboration. Pretty straightforward, pretty simple sounding, oftentimes overlooked. Nonprofits, use this for your organization. And you might want to use this for your project, volunteer, et cetera teams. Make sure you prioritize including community voice, right? I'm going to keep touching on that when we talk about nonprofits and communities. For communities, use this to help ensure community teams are creating and nurturing a collaborative culture, right? Keep coming back to this. Volunteers, use this for volunteering teams, can be any kind of team, a community team, a corporate team, a Peace Corps team, right? To ensure that you're set up for successful collaboration and that everyone is on the same page, right? Just use this to avoid misaligned expectations. And individuals, as always, use this in your life, in your own life as a self-check. Do you feel like you're establishing a culture of collaboration with friends, family, and colleagues? Are you creating an open environment? Are you being dependable? Are you being reliable? Are you creating a psychologically safe conversation? So a really good way to sort of check in on yourself to see how you're doing in your relationships. So that is it. I'm sure you will find many more ways to approach this, but definitely one of the go-to tools when you're trying to work together to create any kind of positive change, be it in a community, be it in a nonprofit, be it in a for-profit, be it in your family. So hopefully you find this helpful. Don't hesitate to reach out if I can be supportive in any way. All the best.